Friends, how are you all today? We are here on day 4 of brand 10,000 WCombinator 100 Days to a Leadership Transformation series. On behalf of GCPIT, I extend a very warm welcome to all of you to this wonderful evening. We had great speakers and great topics in the last 3 days. We had a session on cybersecurity. We had a session on managing our finances. We also had a session on how to handle stress through body movements. We not only had speakers joining us from different parts of the world, but we had an energetic audience joining us from New York, Scotland, Tunisia, South Africa, Nigeria, Italy, Poland, Malaysia, Switzerland, and also we have people from Dubai and other places in the Middle East. I'm joining from Oman, and today's speaker is joining us all the way from New York. Not only that, today's guest is very special in one more way. She's the global chairperson of GCPIT's Women Entrepreneurship and Empowerment vertical called WCombinator. Before introducing the speaker, let me introduce myself. I'm Aparna G. Kumar, the global co-chairperson of GCPIT, that is the Global Council for the Promotion of International Trade, a not-for-profit registered in India and South Africa. The mission of GCPIT is to handhold, empower, and support SMEs globally. We are all going through tremendous stress these days. The global pandemic has affected many of us, our friends, our relatives, our close associates. We even lost many of them. Many are finding it really hard to come out of this physically and emotionally. Many of our SMEs, startups, and women entrepreneurs are struggling to bounce back. Many of them are losing their confidence. That is when we felt we need to take charge and lead. We're all going through the same situation, and we need to be back on track before we can even think of building our businesses. That is how we thought of bringing you the power-packed 100 Days to a Leadership Transformation series, beginning with sessions on mental health, wellness, safety, bounce back strategies, business development, sales and marketing, leadership, communication, and also sessions on international trade and womenomics. We expect you all to attend each session carefully, and once we complete the 100 days, we will be ready to bounce back and transform our businesses into global brands with the support of GCPIT's Brand 10,000 SMEs and Brand 10,000 WCombinator programs. Let us grow together with GCPIT. As I mentioned before, today we have a very special person with us, the highly energetic leader, Ms. Rita Kakati Shah. She is an award-winning gender diversity, inclusion, and career strategist, author, speaker, mentor, and advisor to Fortune 500 companies. She is the founder and CEO of UMA, an international platform that empowers confidence, inspires success, and builds leadership in women and minorities. She began her professional career at Goldman Sachs in London, where she was awarded the prestigious Excellence in Citizenship and Diversity Award. She is also a distinguished alumna of King's College London, triple Stevie Awards for Women in Business winner, judge for the Middle East Awards, and recipient of several international awards in recognition for her significant contributions and leadership in furthering gender equality, diversity, and inclusion around the world. She actively coaches and mentors business leaders, veterans, survivors of domestic violence, women in technology, STEM, schoolgirls, and students. She also serves as an advisor, ambassador, and diversity and inclusion expert to multiple boards and global organizations. She is regularly invited as speaker and guest lecturer at various academic institutions, multinational corporations, and global policy forums, such as UNESCO in Paris, European Parliament in Brussels, and many more spanning Assam, Delhi, London, Madrid, Meghalaya, New York, San Francisco, Sochi, Toronto, and Zambia. She has been featured as an expert on multiple international television and news shows, interviewed and quoted in various podcasts and publications such as the Wall Street Journal, Fast Company, Dell Technology, CBS News, Fox News, and Yahoo Finance. And she is a best-selling author of books on women in business, diversity and inclusion, and also hosts the popular South Asian television show, The UMA Show, on Mana TV International. She is also one of GCPIT's 100 Global Women Leaders this year, and we are proud to have her in our team. She is going to talk about power posing your way to confidence. Let me proudly present before you the highly energetic leader, Ms. Rita Kakati Shah. Over to you, Rita.
Thank you so much, Aparna, for that amazing introduction. Hi everyone, it's such an honor and a pleasure to be here. I love the topic of confidence. I love that we're doing this 100 days of empowerment right now for leaders around the world, no matter where you're from, what gender you are, what your background is. This is to energize and lift you all out of that gloom that we've all been in for the last year or so. So today we're here to talk about confidence. We're talking about that empowerment journey, and we're here to kind of show you those power poses to get you out of that glum right now. So without further ado, let's think about confidence. Why do we think about confidence in the first place? Well, have you ever heard the phrase, confidence is contagious? That act of kindness, somebody smiling at you across the road. Think of it this way. Have you ever had a day where you just woken up out of bed and you're just not in a mood? You're it's Monday morning and you have the Monday morning blues. You're walking across the street. You're like, oh, I don't even want to be here right now. Somebody across the road, a stranger, offers you a smile, waves at you, makes eye contact in a really kind, gentle manner. What does that automatically do? It makes you feel good as well, and it can transform part of that feeling you have inside. So that's what we mean by confidence is contagious. Have you also noticed that, when somebody smiles or somebody breaks out in laughter around the room, sometimes that laugh can go around the room as well. Laughter is contagious. It's part of confidence as well. So these are all parts of the things where you can spread that warmth. You can spread that confidence. It takes some time sometimes to get yourself into confidence, but once you do, it's there to stay. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that, this is life. We've just come out of, well, not coming out, we're still going through a serious global pandemic around the world. There are times of days where all of us are currently even facing, we're losing family members, we're losing friends, we're having startups of our own, we're leading global organizations, whatever it is, it's affecting us all in so many different ways. However, although we cannot control the circumstances, we cannot control what is going on around us, what we can control is our reaction. How we react, what comes out of our mouths, what is our mood, what do we do is completely up to us. So when we talk about that confidence journey, that is completely, the ball is in our court. So before we go into confidence in more detail, let's explore why is it that people lose confidence? For example, have you ever thought about imposter syndrome? That's usually a phrase that comes across a lot. It affects men, it affects women, it affects children, it affects the elderly, it affects everybody, no matter what part of life you're in. But here's the thing. Have you noticed that even if you are a famous speaker around the world, you are a global leader, a politician, a celebrity, A-lister, actor in Hollywood, wherever you are, there are sometimes moments of doubt that goes through your head. That is imposter syndrome. It's where that moment of doubt comes in, where you question your very ability. Here's a little hack though for imposter syndrome. If you're given a speech, nobody else knows what you're going to talk about. If you forget your line or what you're going to say, nobody else knows you're going to forget that. So what you're saying is unique. You have your own story and it's going to come out yourself. So that is one way of thinking about it. What you're going to say, what you're going to do next, you're 100% in control of. If you forget something, we all forget things, but how you pick yourself up is the next way forward. So that's one of the things. The other thing about self-doubt is that it does happen to all of us as well. But here's the other thing about self-doubt. We know that with practice, preparation, with some key areas, we can get ourselves out of that thought process too. The other thing as well about confidence is that there are 4 ways that I like to think of confidence and the main hacks for how we can get into confidence. One of them is preparation. One of them is perception. One of them is practice. And the 4th one is power poses, the 4 Ps. Before we go into that, I want you to all think about the word confidence and what it means to you. Feel free to chat, feel free to put them in the live chat at the moment. If anything comes out, just shout them out. I want to hear words. I want this to be interactive. So go on and just think of the things, even if they're in your head. What does confidence mean to you? Think of a famous person, think of a role model. It could be somebody in your family. It could be your mother. My mother is one of my biggest role models of all time. It could be somebody famous. It could be a former colleague or a boss that you had. Who is it that reminds you of confidence? When you think of them, you think of confidence. And I would love you to just come out and say what you're thinking of. And, you know, some of these words that come out. I'm going to quickly glance in the chat and see what's going on. Okay, well, some of the words that come up to me and quite popularly come up with the word confidence is that people feel powerful. People feel like they have the whole world in front of their hands. They feel brave. They feel smart. They feel like they can be themselves and nothing stops them or lets them down. Michelle Obama, Robin Sharma, these are names that have come out in the chat. Thank you so much for volunteering those. Love those names right there. And what is it about those people? They come up there, they're so brave and they can take on the world. Here's one thing I wanted to tell you about. If you think of these different folks that we've just mentioned, whether it's a parent, whether it's a family member, whether it is Michelle Obama, whether it is Robin Sharma, whether it is a famous politician out there that you really aspire to as well, something about them, they're all confident, yes, but they're all unique. They're all very, very, very different from each other. Abria, thank you. You mentioned your parents. Exactly. Parents, they're different even from each other. But everybody that you think about that is confident are very unique. They're different. Here's the thing. We are all unique in our own way. So confidence to one person is very different to somebody else. So when you think of confidence and you think of somebody else, oh, how can I be like them? That's the first thing you don't want to do. You do not want to be like somebody else. You can aspire to their positive qualities, but ultimately what makes you you are your own qualities. You might have some quirks in your personality, some things that you think, oh, I wish I didn't do that, but that's what makes you who you are. This is the era of embracing who we are, loving ourselves for who we are, thinking of those positive moments of our personality and nurturing them, nourishing them, because that is what confidence is all about. Great. Well, thank you so much for sharing those and talking about your mom and dad. Oh, I hear inner peace and self-love coming up as well. So thank you for sharing those thoughts now. So now we're going to go into the 4 P's that I just mentioned. What can we do for preparation? Well, preparation starts last thing at night, first thing in the morning. It's unique and it's up to you how you do that. I love listening to music. So for me, if I think of a tune, I love dancing. I love Latin American music. I remember a trip I took before I started my professional career, straight after I graduated from university and finishing my master's, I went to Guatemala. And salsa, the music, it just flowed through my body. I just loved it, just seeing how people were so happy and the colors and the vibrant joy of that. So when I think of music and I hear something like that, it makes me so happy. It reminds me of a certain time in my life where I was carefree and I could just feel like I could take on the world. Whatever it does it for you. For example, some people like to write notes. If you wake up in the morning, think of some positive words that can get you going. That can be a confidence mantra. Do you know what a mantra is? It's something you do daily. It becomes something that is part of your daily life. It is muscle memory. Confidence is a muscle. You need to exercise it daily so it becomes who you are. Your confidence mantra is the same thing. Is it music? Is it to positive words? For example, you can say to yourself, wake up in the morning, I've got this. I'm unique. I'm beautiful. Whatever it is and whatever something important to you, and you keep repeating it and saying it with some deep breaths and repeating it at certain times of the day, and I promise you it's going to start helping and making yourself feel better. First thing in the morning. Some people like meditating. Some people like doing a little bit of yoga. Whatever it is, that is your mantra. Think of good words and positive words as you go forward. The other thing about preparation is if you're going to give a talk, whether it's a job interview, whether it's a board meeting, whether it's similar to what I'm doing right now, speaking in front of an audience, preparation is key. Think of what you're going to say. The last thing you want to do is just turn up completely unprepared, have no idea on your content, and then you start to panic. Because then in a way, you kind of know why you're not going to feel confident. But if you've taken the time to know your material, do something over and over again. I like some hacks, like practicing in front of a mirror, recording yourself as well to see how it is. These are ways of getting that preparation down to a grind. So you have it and then you can enjoy the moment. And that is confidence is all about. The other thing we want to talk about is, next one is perception. Did you know research shows it takes only 6 seconds for somebody to form an opinion about you? Therefore, you want to make it count. We have our own biases, we have our own value systems and viewpoints. So sometimes, even if somebody doesn't even speak, you make your mind up about that person. When you guys saw me for the first time, before I even started my presentation, you already had a viewpoint about me. When Aparna gave her introduction, you had a few seconds, you thought you had a viewpoint of what I'm going to say, what I'm going to be like. So either you're pleasantly surprised because I'm saying something very different, or you think, yep, this is exactly what it is. Either way, perceptions are reality. When somebody has a perception about you, it becomes their reality. Therefore, you want to make it count. You want to make sure that you can alter perceptions, therefore altering reality just by what you're doing. It could be something you wear. It could be something about the way you conduct yourself. It could be body language. If I'm sitting like this, and giving you the presentation, what does that show you about how I'm doing it? Do I really want to be here? Or am I like this and I'm enthusiastic and opening up my body language? So things like that can really, really make a difference in that perception. Am I waking something here that I feel colorful, that I feel I want to talk about confidence and power poses? Or do I want to? Today, the day I want to wear my business suit and decide I want to give that presentation. It's really about how you dictate what's going to come next. And affirmations, absolutely. We're sharing about affirmations right now as well. These are exactly what it is that we need to be doing. So the next point of what we're going to mention, we've done preparation, we're talking about perceptions, then we're going to be talking about practice. People say all the time that practice makes perfect. What do we mean by that? You want to do something over and over and over again that it becomes who you are. Like even if you forget something, it doesn't matter because you can pick yourself up and you have these hacks to keep on going. It's like riding a bike. When you do it for the first time, can you just pick up a bike and ride it? Unlikely. You usually have to practice. You fall off a few times, a lot of times in my case. You have to find your balance. You have to get there. And then it becomes muscle memory. It's something that you never forget once you've got it. Walking for the first time when you're a baby. How many times you have to fall over and start crawling for the first time? You heard the phrase, you've got to crawl before you can walk. It's exactly the same thing. You do something over and over again, it becomes muscle memory. There's that phrase that people use, which is make sure if you see it, you can become it. So think of these role models, think of these things of how are these people doing it out there in the world. So that's what we're talking about when it talks to practice. And practice you can do with a friend of yours, you can do yourself. You know, I like to do things in front of a mirror sometimes, you know, like how is my body language? What am I doing with my hands? When I'm giving a talk, am I doing this? Am I fidgeting? Am I playing with my hair? Am I just doing things a lot? Or am I just trying to be still? And that can take practice to really perfect what feels natural to you in what circumstance and what situation. Now, the fourth P is power poses. And that is exactly what we're here to master and learn about today. Now, for this 100 days of success, stories and hacks out there today, this week, we're talking about health and wellness. So because we're talking about health and wellness, power poses in the top of that list. Did you know that in just 2 minutes of enacting certain power poses with your body language, you can change the chemical makeup of your blood group? So you can actually change the levels of cortisol and testosterone in your bloodstream. For example, there are 2 hormones out there that dictate how confident and how nervous we feel: testosterone and cortisol. Generally, when you're kind of giving that, I feel invincible, I'm ready to go, that fight or flight, I'm ready to get there. If you were to do a blood test there and then, you've probably got higher levels of, elevated levels of testosterone, and your cortisol levels, the anxiety, the stress, the doubting yourself is probably quite low. When you're not feeling quite up to it, that Monday morning when you wake up and you think, oh, you know, I shouldn't have binge watched another Netflix series last night, whatever it was, and you're feeling kind of tired in the morning, if you were to do a blood test right there, you'd probably find your cortisol levels were elevated because you're kind of not quite feeling it, and your testosterone was kind of lower that day. But here's a couple of things. If you were to enact body movements just for 2 minutes, you can actually change that chemical makeup. And it's very important to remember those words and remember that. So I'm going to show you some power poses. I'm going to start off actually showing you some negative power poses. Now, these power poses have been shown to decrease your testosterone and increase your cortisol, which is what you don't want to happen. This is research conducted by Dr. Amy Kakati in the US, and this is exactly the research that she has shown. For example, some of the power poses, the negative ones, are things like, sitting like this, either on a Zoom call or in an actual live meeting. Doing that, sitting like this. Why do we do that? Well, it's comfortable. It's very comfortable to sit like that and kind of cross your hands and cross your legs, cross your ankles, cross whatever you want. But what does that also do? Think about this. If you are in a team meeting, say it's a brainstorming meeting, a creative meeting, and whoever is running the meeting says, okay, who wants to raise their hands and share your thoughts? If you're sitting like this, you're more likely to take a step back. You're not likely to put your hand up and just go for it at that point, right? It's a sort of thing that you don't quite feel it. But if you sat upright, opened your chest out, you're more likely to sit there and think about it. So these are some of the positive power poses that actually increase the level of testosterone and decrease the level of cortisol. And this is like, it could be just sitting upright like this. It could be standing and sometimes leaning on a table, slightly forward. The point being, you want to be open up your diaphragm, open up your chest. When you're speaking, even if you have a quiet voice, sitting like this, you can elevate and really speak loudly. My favorite power pose is the Wonder Woman pose. And I don't know where you guys are around the world, but I would love you guys to do this in the comforts of your home, in the comforts of your office. If you're out and about, you can do this as well. You can put your hands on your hips, you can sit, you can stand, you can lay down while you do this, you can do it. But if you do this, and just try it with me right now, just for a couple of minutes, we can do it just for 30 seconds now, but just take some deep breaths and just put your hands on your hips and try this Wonder Woman power pose. Just for a little while. And then you can feel that positivity. Feel that moment coming to you. Feel that moment of thinking, I've got this. Whatever your morning mantra is, this is the moment to be saying it in your head. Say that to yourself. Think of that lovely tune that really invigorates you. This is the time to be doing it in that 30 seconds, in that 2 minutes. This is the time. And then once we've done that, think about how that's made you feel, just sitting like that, opening it up. Feel free to share your thoughts on that. For me, it's made me feel more positive, just open, more relaxed actually. Quite often people think, well, if I sit like this, do I not feel tense? Try it and see. Actually, it makes you feel more relaxed because actually you're allowing yourself to open up. So it does the reverse. Where historically we think sitting like this is more relaxing, it's not. Sitting like this is actually what's relaxing your body more and allows you to think more creatively and be at your best. So whatever stage you are in your life, whether it's getting out of the pandemic, whether it's thinking of a new business idea, whether it's sitting with your family and friends, a caregiving role, whatever it is, these are power poses that can get you out of any situation. It's scientifically proven that there is chemistry behind it. This is true, it's biological, we can all do it. So these are sort of tips I would love you to try in your own spaces, at home, away, wherever you are. So without further ado, that is the 4th P of today. So we've had practice, we've had preparation, we've had perception, and the power poses. And that is the way of lifting yourself into that confident journey. So I hope that's started you up for the morning, wherever you are, the evenings, the afternoons, wherever your time zone is, and it's helped you start your way into a more confident future. So with that, I would love to open it up to any comments or any questions that anyone might have.
Yes, that was awesome, Rita. Yes, you have really shown us that confidence, like smile, is contagious. And as you said, the imposter syndrome, we are all victims of it at some time or the other. And the 4 Ps, they are very simple but very powerful, right? And the Wonder Woman pose, yes, it really makes us feel that we can rule the world, right? Yeah, and Madhu was sharing, Abir was sharing. Yes, now we are opening up for questions. Any questions from the audience? Madhu, Abir, I think Christina, usually she joins and she has a lot of questions. Yes, Bonia saying great information. Thanks.
Hi, it's
Hi.
Abir speaking.
Wow,
Thank you so
Abir,
much, Rita.
I can.
I have a
please.
question. I'm asking for how can you advise us, especially women, when let me say toxic people try to put in some doubt your self-confidence. That means, okay, you're confident, you are positive, and some people try just to push some negative vibes. So how can you advise us to act? Thank you.
Abir, that's a fantastic question. So here's the thing. 2 ways of dealing with that. One is just take a deep breath and you can rise above it. The other way of dealing with it, and this is what I really like, is exercise a bit of empathy first. Usually when somebody has a negative reaction, it's usually because of something to do with them, nothing to do with you. So from a perspective of the recipient, sometimes you can just take the time to understand where they're coming from. Quite often people are given feedback, but it doesn't often come across like that. It can come across as negative. So I always say, listen to what they're saying, and then you can ascertain, which is that's actually a really good point. It could probably have been conveyed a little differently, but it's actually a good point. You know, quite often when we listen to people and take the time to understand where it's coming from, then we can filter it down. Is it actually coming across because it is constructive feedback? Or is it, Abir, to your point, something because somebody is, I don't know, jealous, they're trying to kind of elbow you out the way, whatever it is, you know, but taking the time to listen to everybody is key. When we talk about confidence, confidence is part of the empowerment journey. You cannot be empowered unless you listen to somebody, unless you exercise empathy as well. So rather than sort of put the blame and say, hey, that they're just talking rubbish and, you know, move on, I would say you take the time to acknowledge and listen to it, and then make the decision of, okay, this is how I'm going to deal with it. You know, take a deep breath and move on. What it shouldn't do, Abir, is make you feel negative about yourself. Remember, emotions are contagious. Like confidence is contagious, so are negative emotions. If you're around a misery guts all day long, generally you feel a bit miserable too. It's very natural. So here's the other thing. If somebody is down because of something, and this is important to remember, something going on in their lives, and you're about to go and perform or give a presentation, it's important for you to go to the confidence hacks, the confidence mantra that we have just mentioned. Remember that uniqueness, and you have to close it out and brush it aside. And you have to take that deep breath, remove those mantras, and you go for it. So it's almost like you know yourself the best. You know there's something else to be dealt with separately, but you can take that step to go ahead.
Thank you, Rita. That's awesome.
Yes, anybody else? Any other questions?
Yeah, Rita, I have a question which is almost extended to what Abir asked. It's usually, you know, when confidence is one part, but usually, you know, while discussing or while having a negative feedback or giving a negative feedback or any opportunity or area for improvement, what kind of posture or this thing is the best thing, you know, like I just need an advice. Usually when you are showcasing as a confident person, it's very, we can take it. But if you are defending someone's idea or you are having some improvement point to convey, so what should be the posture or what should be the attitude during that time?
That's a fantastic question, Madhusmita. So a couple of things here, and I'll give you an example. So say we're doing a Zoom meeting right now, and say I was going to share some screens and some slides. And I would say to Aparna, hey, Aparna, I'm trying to share my slides. I can't quite see the shared screen button. Aparna has 2 ways of responding. One of them, she could say is, Rita, you just need to press the share slide button and you can share. Or she could say, Rita, if you go to the top of the screen, there's a drop down. If you scroll the drop down, you'll be able to see it says share slides. What I've done is given you 2 examples. The first example is Aparna being condescending, but she's giving me feedback and she's telling me what I want to know, but being condescending a little bit by saying, just read it. The other one is actually taking a step to explain, to say, okay, well, she genuinely doesn't know. That's what she's asking me. So by that, I've given you 2 examples of conveying exactly the same messaging. So similarly, if you are a manager, a leader, a colleague, a peer, and you are trying to give feedback to somebody else, and you're doing it coming from a good place, be mindful of how you convey that. If to come from a good place, do it in a way that you're explaining. First, take the time to acknowledge what somebody's done or given, because it shows you've listened to them. It shows that you've actually taken the time to acknowledge what they've done, to say, I love how you did that. I love you did that. One thing you might want to think about for the future, though, is maybe if you phrase it that way, we might be able to get some of the more participants to put their hands up. What do you think? So what we've done there is basically said, you know what, I didn't like a couple of the points you put across. I think you should do it differently. But rather than say it that way, I've done it in a way to say that I love your style of presenting. I love what you've done. But perhaps if we think of it this way, we might have to get across. So you're trying to make it like an inclusive conversation that's coming out of a good place. And you know what? We're all humans, Modest Meter. There are times we all put our foot in it. You know, we don't mean to. But even if you do that, you can take a step back immediately and say, oh, I apologize. In case that got communicated incorrectly, this is what I'm trying to say. So even if you've done that, you can backtrack and rephrase it again. I hope that's helped.
Thank you so much. Inclusive is the word. I took it from that. Yes, thank you so much.
Perfect.
Thank you, Madhu. And we have Lori McNeil with us. She's saying she apologizes for joining a bit late, but she wants to know a little more about how to do the preparation. So
great. Well, hey, Lori, great to see you. So yeah, the preparation that we talked about is really the very, very first step of the 4 Ps that we talked about. And really preparation is the crux. When we think of, remember when we talked about confidence and we talked about where does that self-doubt come from? Sometimes the self-doubt comes from because you think about, am I going to forget what I'm doing? What happens, you know, with the imposter syndrome as well. But ultimately, one of the key facts for that is looking at very good preparation. If you prepare really, really well, we can practically negate or eradicate the imposter syndrome part and the self-doubt portion. So remember the preparation that we talked about? For me, it was the music because it reminds me of a place in my life that I absolutely love. But for others, it could be those mantras we talk about. For me, for others, it could be first thing in the morning. For other people, it could be last thing at night before you go to sleep, having that confidence mantra, whether it's affirmation words, whether it's music, whether it's sort of relaxation techniques, things like that. So I hope that's helped remind you of what we spoke about, Laurie.
Very helpful. Thank you so much, Rita.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Lori, for joining in. And Bonia is asking, is there any relationship between confidence and decision making?
Absolutely, Bonia. Thank you for that question. So here's the thing. When you are making decisions, when do you find yourself being able to make better decisions? Is it when you've got a million things on your plate and you're feeling like, oh my gosh, I've lost, where did I put my kids? Where am I doing this? Oh, I've got to drop my kids to do, I'm doing this. And you've got so many going things that you're feeling anxious and what? Do you make better decisions then? Or do you make better decisions when you're calm, you're collected, you're feeling more with it, you've taken a deep breath, you're like, okay, what do we have here? Okay, this is option 1. Okay, these are the pros and cons. Okay, this is option B. Okay, this is what I think. So here's the thing. If you are feeling in that confident mindset, by that, remember we talked about the power poses. Remember we talked about how do you increase the testosterone, how do you decrease the cortisol. Make sure you're away from any cortisol increasing moments at that point when you're trying to make a big decision, because it's really going to help. Basically, the calmer you are, the more with it that you feel that you are, the more prepared, the more that practice that you are. It's exactly the same thing. It can lead into decision making. Confidence is really the crux of many of the modalities that help us go forth in life, whether it's decision making, whether it's planning something for the future, work, life, home, whatever it is.
Yes, Bonnie, I hope you are happy with the answer. Are you there? Yes. Bonia. Okay. So any other questions?
Yes, it's Abir.
Yes. Abir, yes.
So I appreciate the Bonia question and the answer of Rita as well. I just wanted to add something. Sometimes you have some hesitation. That means to make a decision in our personal or professional life. Is that meaning that we have a lack of confidence, or it's normal to have some hesitation before taking some decisions?
Excellent question, Abir. So here's the thing. In life, there are always crossroads. There are always times where, you know, you could even be very calm and you think, oh, if I take that left fork, I can go this way. If I take the right, and it could be about choosing a degree. It could be choosing, you have 2 job offers. It could be something that can make or break something that is really fundamental. And ultimately, with that, you have to have that clarity and understanding of why and what's going to happen for both. So the more prepared you are, so I still go back to the preparation point, the more information you have about these forks, the crossroads in your life, the better it is for you. Now, ultimately, you know, back in the day, we're talking about in my parents' generation, in our grandparents' generation, when we used to think about careers, one career was for life. So back then, actually, whatever they chose was what they're stuck with. But in this day and age, Abir, and in many things in life, it's totally fine to try things out for a couple of months, years, and then move on to something else. You know, I'm an entrepreneur. I've had different careers as well. And it's absolutely fine to do that. But here's the thing, once you've made the decision, and this is ultimately what sometimes leads to a bit of confusion. Once you've made that decision, you've got to make peace with yourself to be accepting and happy with that decision in your mind. Because if you're undecided when you're making that decision, that's not going to help. But once you've decided, you think, you know what, these are both very fair opportunities, but when I've decided one, I'm going to stick with that decision, then you stick with that and you be happy with it. And you do it knowing that, you know what, later down the line, if things change, I can always decide to pursue something else in the future. So I hope that's helped somewhat, Abir, because this is something that we all go through. It's basically, we're putting a lot of pressure on yourselves, but you know what? It's not the end of the world. If you've chosen something else and you want to change your mind, you can totally do that too.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Yes, do we have any other questions?
Great questions, by the way, everyone.
Right. Yes, I think
and great answers as well.
Oh, thanks, Abir.
we have a wonderful team here, Abir, Madhu, Luri, with great questions. So shall we wind up? Any more questions? Yes, I don't think we have any more questions. So thank you, Rita. That was really, really awesome. I'm sure all our audience would really make use of these tips to bring their confidence back or to create an impact in their personal and professional lives as well. It is said that we don't get a second chance to create a first impression. So I believe that creating this perception or creating a positive impact is very, very important. Thank you once again, Rita. I loved your energy. I'm sure all our audience also would have really enjoyed. And I know that you were jumping from one Zoom meeting to another and you're really busy schedule. Thank you so much for giving us your time in between your busy schedule. And thank you, dear audience, for joining us today. If you like the session, please go to our FB page and post your positive feedback there. And if you want to connect with Rita, please go to our website, gcpit.org, and you have an option to connect to her through email. And if you feel you are a leader and you want to join us, please contact us at gcpit.org. Tomorrow, we have another leader with us, Pooja Bhatia, joining us with the topic, hop onto the innovation train during COVID-19, the difficult time. So thank you so much for joining us. Rita, would you like to add some concluding remarks?
Just wanted to say thank you, everyone. This is an amazing session. And remember, confidence is contagious and you can power pose yourself to confidence. On that note, have a great day, everyone. And thank you again so much.
Thank you so much
Rita.
for joining.
Thank you, Aparna. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much.